This is the Remus Babe Ruth. They're about to do another one of these, so I thought it would be time to bring mine out and talk about it and see whether or not, when it comes out the second time, it's something that you should look for. What makes Babe Ruth interesting other than a gimmick of a baseball player, a rather famous baseball player? It uses a couple of Remus's super high rye bourbon mash bills. And this is a blend. There's a total number of bottles equal to the number of plate appearances, aka times that Babe Ruth went to bat. A bit of a gimmick, yes. However, the question is this whiskey, which is priced kind of similar to the Gatsby, actually good? So let's talk about the blend. There is 3 different mash bills. There's a 2016, so an 8-year bourbon. This was released in 2024. That was 44% rye, so very high rye. Very, very high rye. Not the normal high rye we're used to. The 2017 bourbon makes up 70% of the blend, and that's 49% rye. 49% rye, 51 corn. That's it. And then the last part of the blend comes from 2018. That makes up 18% of the blend, and that's the standard 36% high rye that we're used to out of Ross and Squibb, MGP, the Remus in general, right? This comes in at 111 proof. Makes it kind of a slightly higher proof for a lot of the Remus products. Most of them sit either at 100 or in the very low hundreds. Getting anything over about 110 is kind of hard. So you have this mixture of very high rye bourbons to make this blend on a bit of a gimmick, but a very fancy bottle. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I'm a giant baseball fan, which is not obvious by the fact that I'm wearing a hockey hat, but I was a really big historical baseball fan, especially as a kid, and Babe Ruth is especially important to my dad and I. Did lots and lots of research around Babe Ruth when I was a kid and understanding his history and the lore and all those kind of things. So when this came out, I had to have one, and the MSRP on this thing is $200. Let me say that again. The MSRP on this thing is $200. That's a little rough, which is, again, comparable to the Gatsby, but with only 8 years being the highest age that's in this blend, where much of the Gatsby is about 15 years. We're talking about half the age, roughly speaking. Does this stack up at all? Is it even worth trying to find? Because I've seen a number of these still on the shelf of the original release, not to mention before they release the second one. So, for 2 Minute Tuesday, let's dig in to Babe Ruth. Now, there is kind of a thing where each bottle has a QR code on the back that represents the exact at-bat that the Big Bambino, the Sultan of SWAT, all his million awesome nicknames. And there's some kind of jokes that you should try to find a home run bottle. So you can see here, right? Here's the QR code on my bottle, and my bottle is specifically at bat number 10,571 of 10,624. They do some kind of shenanigans with this where it's the play appearances for the day. It's not each individual at bat, because it's really hard to track those super old baseball stats as accurately as they do nowadays. Basically, it was did he hit a home run that day? It's a home run bottle. Did he, just have a plate appearance, which is usually a strikeout or a walk, or, didn't get any important hits, then it's a plate appearance if you check the QR code. I think mine's one of the strikeout bottles or whatever. It's not a home run bottle. It's nothing special, but I don't care that much about that portion. I just wanted to get it. I really like the bottle itself, and I wanted to try the whiskey inside because I tend to like the high rye bourbons that Ross and Squibb, aka MGP, puts out. I'm not normally a rye whiskey fan, so I was kind of curious, how's this going to be? And it was fun to take a shares. I mean, obviously you can see, it's had some damage. It's gone to a few shares. I've had a few friends try it. I've given samples, all that kind of stuff, because I wanted people to try it. It is an expensive bottle, and there are some people who were interested, but they wanted to know whether or not the flavor met up to it. Let's get into 2 Minute Tuesday and start talking notes. As always, we're going to start with color. You can see we got a pretty typical bourbon color, so at 8 years we kind of expect that out of MGP. Viscosity-wise, not the craziest viscosity. We're getting some legs through here, but we'll see how that shows up on the palate. They are hanging there pretty long, but they're very sparse. Let's get into the nose. It's definitely way different than the usual nose that you get on any of the high rye, the standard high rye, the 36%. That extra rye content brings a lot more spice forward, and also a slightly pine note, pine solly. Hopefully it doesn't get chemically on the palate, but it's a lot of the very typical MGP. There's a little bit of spice, kind of a black pepperish thing going on, a bit of leather, a bit of oak. That kind of pine note, like I said, is coming through pretty strong, and just a hint of mint in the rye spice that's coming forward because the rye is so prevalent in the blend. Let's get on the palate. It's not super minty, which is good. A lot of ryes are very, very minty to me, so thankfully there's just a very, very small hint of it, but it's lots of spice. It's very, very spice forward, very peppery, which I tend to like in MGP, but the whole sip, from the very front of your palate all the way into the finish, is very spicy and peppery, but not hot. I want to be very, very clear. It's not like this is ethanol-y or anything like that. It's just Lots of barrel spices really coming forward, being really, really prevalent. A little very faint kind of caramel sweetness that's in there. Quite a bit of oak and leather that's coming through. So this is a much more like savory bourbon. And if you're into that, which MGP for me is very typically a very savory profile, kind of digging it. That touch of pine is there. They get pine tar off a bat or something, but there's just like a hint of that kind of like piney thing, pine needles kind of stuff going on. But it's very, very small. The big thing is really that very spice forward, oak and leather kind of thing. None of the citrus that I occasionally get out of MGP is present. Yeah, coming back in, it's lots of spice, a little bit of caramel, really small amount of vanilla, that little bit of mint and pine. So this is kind of woodsy. If you're looking for something that's more savory and giving you a bit more spice in your profile, this actually is not bad. So let's talk overall score for the Remus Babe Ruth. 65. I really need to account for cost in this bottle. If I do it on flavor alone, I think it's okay because it's a little interesting. It brings some things to the plate outside of the normal MGP profile and makes it a little different than standard MGP because of all that high rye that is present. And if I were doing purely based on that, my score would probably be about 4 or 5 points higher. It's interesting, it's different, but it doesn't linger super long like some of the Gatsby's do, and even a couple of the other Remus products that I've had, like that Remus Experimental we tried recently. That thing just lingers forever, right? And it's really, really impressive despite the fact that it's just a little bit older, right? It's 9 years, where this is 8 and 7 and 6 in its blend. So there's a lot less age in this product. The majority of it is 7-year bourbon with that very high rye content, but it just doesn't linger long enough, especially at the much higher proof compared to other Remus products I've had. So in that case, I think the score is relevant. Is this worth hunting? Is it worth buying? No, man. I mean, at $200, come on. I bought one on a Gimmick because I really like the bottle. I'm a giant baseball nerd. And if you're a giant baseball nerd like me, especially a big, like, historical baseball, Babe Ruth kind of person, maybe you'll want to get one just for, like, the grins of it all, right? To have one on your shelf. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Look at this thing. It is a gorgeous bottle. This is truly decanter worthy, if anything ever was. I would say it actually looks better than the Gatsby bottle. I just can't justify the whiskey at that price. So that's why I'm giving it like a 65. It's okay, but just the price is really pushing it down. It could be in like I said, about a 70 or so if it worked for that. But I would not hunt this personally. I would just like when the next one comes out, I'm not buying another bottle unless it's significantly cheaper. I mean, if they cut the price in half, then I'm interested. This should be like $100 whiskey. If it was $100 whiskey, it would be worth it. But at $200, no, not at all. This has been the Remus Babe Ruth gimmick, if there's ever been a gimmick, but kind of an interesting gimmick for someone like me, and it's nice to have some of the really high, super high rye content Remus in a blend like this, kind of done to a more premium level, as opposed to, I think when they released the highest rye, they were only like 4 to 6 years. But yeah, let me know, have you tried the Remus Babe Ruth? Do you own a bottle? Is yours a home run? Does it taste way better than mine? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. That like, comment, subscribe is literally the best way to help us small whiskey tubers out. It helps us continue to grow and do all the things that we can do, and hopefully stay away from all those Z-Biotic sponsorships. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.